Before we start about this talk about marketing and finance, I need some help from the audience. I need your honesty also. Please raise the hand whoever in the last 2 years was asked to do much more with less, but at the same time, when you went to the next budget cycle, you get your budget cut. Please raise your hands, because if it doesn't work, I have to change the whole pitch right now. Okay. So today, we're going to talk about why this is happening in our ecosystem, why it's becoming harder and harder and harder to get the resources we need for our plans, how we're responding towards that context, and finally, we will introduce a new concept, a new way of having the right conversation inside the company that at WinClub we call finance, MarFinance. Now, this is me. I am Pedro. You can call me Pepo. I started my career in growth and marketing like 8 to 10 years ago, and I come from a different background. I come from finance and economics. Today, my role is of Chief Business Officer at WinClub. I'm responsible for our client global relationships and our consultancy practice. Recently, I've been traveling a lot to Sao Paulo, like in the last year, because I was doing the country manager job too. But fortunately, in the last month, we onboarded Amanda Ferracini, our new country manager, who is here today. So hopefully, you all have the chance to meet her after the conversation. What is WinClub? We have been in Brazil for a very, very long time, but I still have the idea, the feeling that most of the people in Brazil don't really know what we do in the day-to-day. So I want to take this opportunity to explain a little bit better what are we doing. We do consultancy and execution of growth strategies. In other words, of strategies to acquire, retain, and monetize users. Another way of saying it is like we're a consultancy firm and a marketing agency all together in one. We call that approach growth transformation. For most of you that you don't know our company, you probably know some of our clients are here on the slide, and you probably have seen our work behind our clients. Creatives, page media, own media, a lot of work on the MarTech side, helping them to understand what is the best MarTech stack they can put together, and finally helping them on putting together the right growth strategy. Now I'm going to start the presentation. It has 3 parts. The first block, we're going to talk about the context, why it's harder for all of us as growth marketers to get the resources we need to succeed in our companies. Second, what is our response so far? And then I will introduce the concept of MarFinance. A lot of things happening. If you can see the titles, this is what the different themes and trends that we are bombarded every day. It's very hard to figure out like what is going on. So we're going to do our best. From our point of view, this like landscape, or a lot of some of the conversations this morning, we were talking about the economy, about signals, about geopolitical tensions, about the digital opportunity. Well, our take on this reality is twofold. On one side, we see that we continue to think, we're very optimistic, that the digital opportunity in Brazil is huge. We saw some metrics in the morning about internet penetration and the opportunity this opens. E-commerce is projected to grow 19% year over year for the next 5 years. To put that number in perspective, GDP is growing by 2%. So e-commerce is growing almost 10x faster than GDP, which is massive. And then the team from Atlántico this morning show the opportunity that there is there for traditional sectors to be transformed by digital. So on one side, the digital opportunity is massive, and there's a lot of opportunities, and I think that is why most of us are here today, to learn how to grasp this, take ideas to how to grasp this opportunity. On the other side, what we see is that the fundamental equation of digital marketing is threatened. And what do I mean by that is we have LTV on one side, how much revenue or profits a client is going to generate for us over time, over the lifetime, and we have the cost of acquisition. Over the last 3 years, this equation changed dramatically. So the first thing we're going to talk today is like why this changed and how we're responding to that, and then we're going to introduce the concept of MarFinance. What are the two drivers behind this transition? First, the economy, the scarcity of resources in the economy, and second has to do a lot with how the digital ecosystem is changing. Going to the economy, monetary policy has a very strong presence in what we have to do in our companies in day-to-day. In the last 2 years, since late 2021, early 2022, until half 2023, interest rates all across the world went crazy. Brazil is not the exception. As you can see here, the Selic interest rate. Why is this important? The first part, of course, if there is like less funding, companies have less budgets, and where do they look for cutting costs? The first place to cut costs is marketing. Why? It's very big. First, most people don't understand. They think that we just do ads and that's it. But after you pass that layer and you're talking to like very, very smart people in the companies, there are two things that marketing are like an increasing the interest rate makes it very hard for us to do a good business. The first one is payback periods need to get super, super fast and short. But second is LTV. What do I mean by that? If you're measuring LTV in the right way, you're probably taking like the client, your customers for 5 years, and you have to bring the revenue the customer is going to do in 2027 or 2029 towards today. In order to do that, you use an interest rate. When interest rate goes up, that future value is worth very, very little today. So the point here is all of you are managing like incredible businesses, incredible companies. The clients that you were having in 2021, even if they behave exactly the same now, like they do the same amount of purchases with the same average price, etc., those clients are worth 50 to 60% less today because of the effect of interest rates. So this is why finance is a little bit behind, like on our neck, saying like, hey, you cannot spend what you were spending before. You have to spend much less because at the end of the day, our clients are worth less. On the other side, we already talk about this a lot in the morning on Atlantico, how like funding went up and down. The whole purpose of this is if interest rates are up, it's very hard to value future businesses. Now, the other part is like we have the economy making things harder for us. On the other side, we have the digital ecosystem, which is not static. There's privacy, like underlying, like this tendency trend to privacy. That is making things harder. There was an awesome presentation before lunch about signal loss, data fragmentation, and all of that, so I'm not going to get into the details. But I want to share one point, which is very important for this LTV to CAC equation. The less signals we have less data to find the customers that we want for our companies. So the impact of that is like probably LTV from media is going down. It's harder to find them. And CAC is going up. We're showing probably more impressions to people that don't care about our products because we have less signals. So we put all these things together. We have a great opportunity on one side. We have a tough context between the economy and the digital loss of signals. What are our teams doing? What are the best companies in the world doing right now to cope with this? And Renata in the intro section shared some of these like business desired outcomes that our companies are trying to do. I want to share a little bit more about that, how companies have responded. From the start, I want to say that first, companies are transforming themselves. Growth teams across the world and in Brazil, from our conversations we have, are transforming themselves from sprinters, from companies that were design, optimize to run 100 meters in 9 seconds or to grow very, very, very fast in a very short period of time to secure the next milestone towards marathonista, runners that are optimizing a little amount of energy over a very long time. If we think about it in the marketing side, it's like you have X amount of resources, fixed or going down, that you have to spread around for the next 3 to 5 years to achieve your goals. So this is transformation that is happening. How? Well, there are certain levers that even in this complicated landscape, we can pull. The first one is content. Content represents today 50, 60, 70% of the performance of our channels, at the least, in this context. So if we have one thing to do, we need to really work very hard on optimizing content. A couple of things to have in mind here. The first thing, content changed dramatically in the digital ecosystem. Now, if content doesn't entertain our potential audiences, it's impossible this is going to have impact. The second thing, in order to entertain, you have to use creators. Creators connect to brands. People don't follow brands anymore. They follow people. So in order you have to drive good performance of your ads, you need to create entertaining content by creators. And the third piece, you need to test and test and test a lot, and AI brings a huge opportunity to optimize this testing. So in a few words, if today, June 13, 2024, at your companies, you still don't have a good process to iterate performance, created based on performance, creators, and not using AI to scale, we're missing a huge opportunity on the table. The second piece, and this is very close to what Renata talked about, looking for the right customers, has to do with optimizing towards value. Move away from minimizing the CAC and start thinking about how do we bring the right customers to our company. And there's a lot of ways to do this, but the best companies in the world are introducing all the LTV models into the optimization process. Third piece, introduce incrementality to our decision-making in budgets. Incrementality represents a 15 to 20% reduction in increase in ROI opportunity. The landscape of channels continues to evolve. Whoever thought 3 to 5 years ago that Meta and Google was everything was wrong. TikTok appeared, new social channels appear, programmatic is evolving every day. Commerce media is like a huge part of the media mix now. I think in the afternoon there's a session about that. So continued testing, finding new pockets for the audiences is key. And the last piece, it's very hard to acquire the right customers today. It's much more harder than it was. So once we have them, we have to do everything in our power to try to retain them, engage them, and make them to engage much more of our brands. So here's where our CRM and all media comes in place. To execute all this, it's important to have the right MarTech stack, use it efficiently, and really evolve our teams to cross the silos between functions. With this, I'm finishing the second block of the presentation. We talk about the context, how the context is making it harder for marketers to get the right resources to grow sustainably. We talked very briefly about the opportunities we have as growth teams to really drive impact, increase the LTV to CAC. Here you have a quick inspirational quiz to understand like where you're in the company, if there's an opportunity. But now we're going to really go into the topic of this conversation. I think I made you lose 15 minutes because this is where we start, and I'm back in the beginning. So context is complicated, we're doing a lot of stuff, but still, I'm sure we're in June. This is the moment where we're discussing Q3, Q4, maybe 2025 budgets. I'm sure that all of you are going to your boards and saying, hey, we're increasing our revenue by 20%, we're spending less, and the response is going to be, the response from there was going to be, there's no more budget. So what do we do? Why is this happening? Our point of view, there is someone missing in the conversation. Someone that is very important. The team that is responsible, the team that is whose sole mission is to assign resources across the company, the finance team. This is real data. This is like today in this event where we're talking about attribution, incrementality, creative, LTV, all everything that we're talking about that's going to drive a lot of impact. Finance is not here. They're not listening to this. So when we go back to our companies, they have no clue what we talk at Mama. We pitch all these new initiatives, and they say, so what? So it's very important that we have introduced them to the conversation and think about the following. If finance doesn't understand what we do, And it's not because they are not smart people. They truly are. But it's hard to understand the inputs and outputs relationship in marketing. So if you don't understand it, they usually go top down, saying, hey, you have to grow 20% and your budget is 10% lower. Why? They have no choice. This is where we want to introduce our new framework, where we think that bringing a new player to the conversation is going to drive a lot of results to have a really, really, really meaningful conversations in the. How do we do it? The first piece has to do with connecting the objectives. What do we mean by that? I'm sure a lot of you here have a very aggressive target of getting to, 20 million monthly active users by X date. The key question here that we have to ask is, how do we connect that to what drives value for the company? This is the first step. Have those conversations, involve the executive team, the finance team, to understand how our day-to-day goals connect to what really drives value in the company, and under what conditions. For example, if interest rates go down next year by, to 7%, is it the same? Our companies are going to be worth the same? Is that an opportunity to grow faster? Well, be sure that we are connecting the dots in our company. The second piece, what do we want to achieve? We want to achieve a plan that is consistent. And when I mean consistent, a plan in which the goal that we have, growing, I'm sure like everyone here has a growth goal, nobody has a goal of decreasing year over year, is connected to the resources we have at hand. And at the same time, be able to track this over time, be accountable, model scenarios. So how do we do it? And we're going to share very briefly here, and we can talk more after the session, our process that we're working with brands. It starts with a qualitative growth model. It goes all the way to the quantitative part and then to incentives definition. Qualitative growth model, this is a very simple concept. Whoever of you are a Reforge alumni, you probably know this framework. There are a lot of frameworks to do this. But the whole idea is to be able to, in a very simple way, graph how the company grows, so that everyone can understand it. The marketing team, the growth team, the finance team, the executive, everyone, when you say, hey, how does a PicPay grow? Well, everyone have the same answer. The goal of this is not to be precise in the numbers, but to be precise on the strategy. To be precise on the numbers, we have the next part, which is the quantitative growth model. Here is the moment where we put all together our assumptions of the business. We identify our North Star metric. We identify how things move, the North Star metric. We put the baseline numbers together, and we start projecting. What do we get from here? A tool, like a motor, where you can see your strategies all together. From there, you can identify how they're driving results. You can model scenarios. This is very important, scenario modeling, because you probably have these conversations like, hey, we need to cut budgets. Where do we cut it? What do we do? What do we get? And finally, you have a bottoms-up plan that allows finance to get into the marketing's black box. Finance, trust me, love this, because you're giving them access to do what they do very well, which is FP&A, but on marketing. The last piece, but probably the most important to drive change, is to be able to transform these models into right incentives to the team. What is important? Incentives at the end of the day drive behavior. If our teams are not aligned with the model, it's going to be very hard to drive these changes. So, wrapping up, we grab the strategy in a qualitative growth model, we transform this very quantitatively into the QGM, and we finally transform this into incentives. To finish, digital opportunity in Brazil is huge, it's massive. I'm very optimistic about the future in Brazil. Opportunities everywhere. Same time, it's very hard to get the resources that we need. It's going to continue being hard to convince the companies about the resources that we need. We have some levers, all of these programs are very strong. They can drive a lot of impact in our companies. We have seen it across the room. I mean, you probably are implementing this, but it's not going to be enough. To be enough, we need to bring finance to the table and have those meaningful conversations to drive a very, very consistent plan over time, and with this, drive long-term valuation. Muito obrigado, gente. I hope this was useful. And if you want to talk more about it, we're going to be outside the session. And again, thank you for listening to me. It was a real pleasure to be part of Mama São Paulo for my first time.